You could only be tuned to WRUV FM Burlington 90.1 on your radio dial.
WRUV FM Burlington.
The radio voice of the University of Vermont, your better alternative.
You are listening to 90.1 WRUV FM Burlington. Thanks, as always, for listening.
An activist is anyone who sees the need for change and devotes their time to doing something about it. If you are interested in making a difference for a cause you care about, you can do so by educating yourself about the issue. Take classes on issues related to your cause. Listen to the people most affected. Engage in community service. Advocate for legislation. Create a public awareness campaign. Do a survey about the issue and share the results. Demonstrate. Educate others. Run for office. Get the press involved. And talk to other activists. And possibly even pursue a career in a field related to your cause. Basically, whatever job skills you have are probably really useful to some activist organization out there that supports your cause to creating positive change. This message has been brought to you by We the People of WRUV FM Burlington.
This is DJ M-Con, and you're currently tuned to the Ghoul Kids Club here at 90.1 WRUV FM Burlington, where today we have a very cool and very special interview with a UVM student talking about his first time road tripping west, all the adventures that ensued, and then later on, the next summer, how he opened a student-run and operated food truck based on basically a project him and his friends just came up with one day. So we have that coming up in a few minutes. It was a great interview. I'm super excited to share it with you all. I think it's super interesting and really interesting to hear about his trip west as well, where he road tripped, tried to hitchhike, crashed at different friends' places, and how he made it across the United States, basically just having checkpoints along the way and trying to make it to those checkpoints in any way possible. So that will be coming up in a few minutes. And as always, thank you for tuning in. The time is 10:04 and it is a very chilly day out here in Burlington. Definitely wear a scarf or a hat because it's colder than I anticipated. That was a cover of Take Me Home, Country Roads by the Vitamin String Quartet on their album The World of Studio Ghibli. Coming up now, we have an interview with UVM student James Gaudreault talking about his road trip west for the first time when he was 19 years old. Basically, he decided he wanted to go west or bust and plotted out a few checkpoints along the way and kind of made up the rest. So I remember seeing him talking about it on his Instagram a few years ago when it happened, and I thought it was super interesting, and so I wanted to interview him about that experience, what that was like, basically traveling across the United States with not so much of a plan, just kind of seeing what happens, as well as later on how he opened a student-owned and operated food truck, which I know lots of people always say, like, oh, it'd be so cool to own a food truck and, like, a student-owned business, and he talks a little bit later about how he did that. So we have that coming up. It's about a 40-minute or so interview. We sat down yesterday at the Waterman Cafe. Super fun and super exciting, and I hope you all enjoy it. Thank you, as always, for tuning in. Waterman Cafe with James Gaudreault, who's going to tell us about a trip he took a few summers ago, as well as some other fun and interesting things. So do you want to introduce some other things? Would you like to introduce yourself first?
I'm James, sitting here with MCon. We're eating some Fritos in the Waterman Cafe.
Yeah, where'd the Fritos come from?
They're pocket Fritos. I was just at Central Dining Hall, getting a good fill, eating with the freshmen, and had to get my value with some pocket Fritos.
Pocket Fritos, always a healthy and wise snack choice. Mm-hmm. So what year are you? You're a
I'm a senior right now, second semester senior, trying to get through the last little semester here.
Do you know any plans yet post-college, or are you still just...
Scrambling.
Scrambling?
Who knows?
Me
We'll see what happens when we get there.
Me too. Just playing that, just scrambling.
Just scrambling.
So do you remember what summer this was that you took a trip across the United States?
I believe it was the summer after freshman year, going into sophomore year. I might be wrong, but yeah, it was the summer after freshman year. That's gonna be the official story.
Okay.
And I started working for my dad's company and was like wiring alarm systems and stuff. It was pretty dry work.
Yeah.
And then somewhere in the middle of the summer, like a week out, I was just decided, I want something a little bit more interesting. My buddy was on his way out to New Mexico. He was going to take his car out to New Mexico. And so there was already someone on their way out west, and I said, let me just tag along. Let me just make a trip out of it. So it was like a Friday morning. I'd planned this for a week. I'd packed a bag together.
How did you pitch this? Did your parents like?
Yeah.
Did
so
pitch it to
I was
them?
working for the family company.
Yeah.
Like it was kind of having to put in my 1 week's notice with my parents. But I said, hey, Mom and Dad, what if I just up and leave for a couple weeks? Like, do you trust me? And at this point, I guess I must have been 19 years old. So I have some independence, but I haven't really proven myself to be a worthy traveler alone. But they were pretty open to the idea. Cool. They said, if you have something of a plan, we trust you. So, again, like I'm gathering my stuff a week out. I'm putting together just one hiking bag. The big hiking bags. That's all I had.
I think I saw a picture at some point.
Yeah, it was just this red hiking bag with it was just a camping bag really. Like I had my camping stuff in it. I had a really small tent, like a single tent, which housed myself and my buddy a couple times.
Nice.
And like a sleeping mat, not that comfortable, but a sleeping mat, sleeping pad. I also had a hatchet.
I remember seeing the hatchet.
Yeah, I was a traveling hatchet wielder. I don't know why I packed the hatchet, but I think I've gotten it recently. Yeah, you gotta have a hatchet.
You gotta have a hatchet.
It comes in handy sometimes.
No, it does.
I just have this day bag, and my buddy and I, my best friend from high school, Ian Lovekin, he's going to school out in New Mexico. Again, he's bringing his car out. So it's a Friday morning. My parents wake up early with us and are waving, the scene, the parents waving from the front porch.
Where were you? What state were you in at this point?
This is New Hampshire. This is North County, New Hampshire,
okay,
tourist
so you're
town.
Going all the way across.
We're going all the way,
okay.
This is just small northern New Hampshire town. Parents waving from the porch in the morning, and we hop in, and we're just on the road. We also have his dog with us, which is awesome. Oh yeah, a little Shiba Inu, adorable little thing. It's one of the dogs that doesn't really care. It's more like a cat. They don't really care about you. They don't show that much interest. Yeah. Occasionally they'll let you pet them. But we had a third amigo, which was really fun.
Okay, awesome.
But yeah, we're on the road. We're leaving our town.
Shotgun?
It was in and out.
Okay.
We traded shotgun off and on.
Okay.
Occasionally the dog would be on my lap, but
Okay.
but suddenly we're like leaving the town, and we're just chatting. It's just like a normal road trip, like we're going up to a buddy's house, and then the hours creep on. Suddenly we go through lower Vermont, we're in New York, traveling just kind of across the country, starting up pretty high. And as the hours creep on, we're like, wow, we're actually moving now. We're like traveling. Because at that point it sets in. It's not just like a day trip. It's like, oh, there's a longer destination
We're in this for
here.
like the long haul.
Yeah. And honestly, the first bit was pretty nice. We were just chatting. We had lots of conversations because we weren't sick of each other yet. And
Right.
small context. We went to Buffalo, New York, and went to the home of Buffalo Wings.
Really?
It's this little like.
I didn't know there was an actual
Oh yeah,
home
there's
of
one
Buffalo
place,
Wings.
and apparently it's been vouched for. But there's
Okay.
one little dinery kind of restaurant place that claims to have the first Buffalo Wings.
Really?
So we stopped in there. There's a big wait.
Were they good?
They were really good. We ordered 50 wings. There were two of us, dog in the car, 50 wings. We ordered beers with our fake IDs. We felt pretty cool just sitting at the bar eating
Oh
our
my
50
gosh.
wings. And I think we might have eaten 20, 25. And the rest just ended up in a bag in
dog?
the car. No. I think we fed a couple to the dog, but my mom has this thing about chicken bones.
Oh.
She's been warning us not to feed dogs
That's
chicken
fair.
bones.
I don't think you're supposed to feed them.
Yeah, I mean it's probably not, but she read that somewhere, so that's ingrained in me now.
Yeah, I feel like buffalo sauce and dogs.
Yeah,
Just in a
and-
car.
Oh, car farts. It's not dog farts in the car. Not a good look.
Right.
But those, we just kind of snacked on those as they warmed up over the next few days. It was not a good move. But let's see, Buffalo, New York, and then we just started going down, and then you get into like the just nothingness, like the states where you're just driving along and. It's just cornfields and like.
Ohio? Were you hitting through
Oh,
Ohio?
we were going
and
through
then,
Ohio.
Yeah.
It's like flyover states. You know that song?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's just the flyover states.
Interesting.
And at that point, conversations start to run out a little bit, but we're still having fun. We're just kind of meandering. And I don't remember this stuff that well because at that point, once we were in Buffalo, New York, we were like, oh man, we have like 36 hours now to get
Right.
to New Mexico because he had work on Monday or something. We left on Friday.
So you were
we
on
gave
time-
ourselves
you were on
ourselves
deadline.
not much time to get out there.
And were you sleeping? Like.
Yeah, so the first night
yeah.
in New York, we were running out of gas. It was late at night. And we were like, okay, we'll get some sleep for this first night. As soon as we're tired, and we're running out of gas, and we're like, well, what are we going to do? And we hadn't really been a plan for it. We're like, we're not going to pay for a motel. That's too expensive.
Yeah.
So eventually, we just find a field, pull off, open up the tent, and the two of us just get in this little one-person tent. Dog's kind of
Excellent.
outside. Like, I think the dog might have slept in the car. But we pulled out. I had a little camping stove, like a
Yeah.
little portable camping stove. So we made a dinner, like stuff that we bought along the way.
Heat up the wings.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a janky, but it was just kind of like it just felt like a normal camping night.
Yeah,
It was cozy.
that's kinda cute.
It was car camping, and that was like the blissful era. Like we're looking at the stars. we're like,
blissful era.
Yeah, we're like, we're still fresh. Like,
Yeah.
but it's the next day when we're like, oh, and we do the math finally the next day, and we're like, oh, we have 36 hours to drive like 24 hours or something.
Right.
So we realized that we're pretty much driving straight. It might have been even worse than that. I wish I remember the actual details, but it was a crazy time crunch. So we're pretty much just drive straight after that. Through the night, we're taking shifts. It's the boring states. And for probably like 10 hours before we get to Albuquerque, when we're down in like Texas area and stuff, that's when it's brutal. Like we're starting to fall asleep.
Oh,
and
man.
You
So
pull
you
over to
guys-
rest stops. We were
you guys
swapping.
swapping?
But we were both just so exhausted.
Right. So you hadn't stopped since New York.
I think that's what happened. I think it was just, we realized we had to just go.
Right.
But we made it. We got in, we rolled into Albuquerque, and we were exhausted, but it was interesting. Like I'd never been further west than like Washington D.C.
Oh, no way. So
Yeah,
this is your
like,
first time?
I'd been to like Florida with my family, but I've
Really?
never been out. So this was like, for me, this was like a pilgrimage. Like it was a brand new
Wow.
experience to like see what was
I
out
didn't
there.
know that.
Yeah, so like we get the desert and you get like Albuquerque rolling up, and it's incredible. Like I'm tired, but it's incredible to see the canyons
Yeah.
and like
Big
it's like the
difference
pictures.
from New Hampshire?
A lot different from North Conway, rural New Hampshire. And it was that the trip across was a lot. I'd recommend more time if someone were to do a trip like this and be out road tripping across the entire country. I'd say budget yourself more than 3 days and maybe even some better sleeping accommodations.
Yeah.
But we were doing it on a tight money budget and a tight time budget. But we still got it done. And then in Albuquerque at that point, I was just kind of living with my buddy Ian, living with him and his roommates, and just kind of experiencing his life, which is really nice. It's been cool. I've done this a few times. We're just going to people's college towns and just living with them for a few days or a week or a couple weeks, and just like seeing what their experiences are there. Because people, I mean, when you get back, at least in my experience, like you get back, everyone comes back from their school back in the hometown, and you kind of catch up for basement parties, and you're just kind of, you know, like,
that's exactly what
like
my friends do. Yeah,
it's like how has your experience been? And they talk about a couple of their key friends, and you kind of get a feel for it. But being out after like hearing that from my friends and then going to experience it, it's really, really interesting to like
and to finally meet the whole gang,
meet the people, and like see what their routines are. And that's what I did. This is one of the first times I've done that, and that was a really wholesome experience. It was a lot of fun.
It sounds like so much fun. I've always wanted to meet my like high school friends, like go to their colleges.
Yeah,
but, like,
yeah.
It's just like we can never make it happen. But
that's the thing. It's logistics. Like one thing I'd say is like I'd recommend a trip like this. Like it was just kind of a like I said, like the week before it was just like do it, like just go for it. But it came from a place of privilege for sure, where I had the money to do this. I was able to take off work in the middle of summer. Like some people aren't able to do that. And like later in the journey, like I was alone for part of it. I was able to travel alone in new spaces and try to hitchhike, things like that.
So do you want to talk about that a little bit, about what happened after Albuquerque?
Yeah, so Albuquerque, a lot of fun hanging out with my friends. And then I think I was there for a little bit less than a week. And then I said, all right, it's time to move on. And I had an old friend in LA, and Grace Ribelson.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I know her.
And so I'd been messaging her, and she said, yeah, I have a place for you. And she was going to show me around LA a little bit. So I had
You've never been to LA either, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I've never been anywhere. California was the big one too. I was like, I'd love to be in California. So I had a destination, and I knew I had to be there in a time frame, but I didn't know how to get there. And so in the last day in Albuquerque, I'm like, okay, let's hitchhike. That was part of my plan at the beginning. And that was the plan that my parents were the most scared of. When I pitched them, I was like, I'm going to hitchhike across the country. It's going to be great. And they were like, not anymore. And my mom would tell me stories about how she used to hitchhike. Like when she was out in UC Santa Cruz out in California, she would hitchhike all over the place. But the times have changed a little bit. You know, there's serial killers and stuff.
I can't imagine hitchhiking.
Yeah.
Even back then, I feel like it's safer now.
I don't know, because she was talking about like the 80s. I think. I guess maybe late 70s, 80s. She was hitchhiking around, and she was like, everyone did it. That's what she'd say. Is like everyone would hitchhike, and it was super common. But one thing I've heard is that it was like the serial killers that turned everyone over. But I thought that was like the 80s too.
I think like 70s, 80s maybe. But I feel like these days, it might be, this is my hot take, I feel like it might be safer to hitchhike these days because of phones and like GPS tracking and stuff.
That's true.
But I feel like drivers are more unwilling to pick people up because they're afraid of the hitchhikers.
Yes. I think that's a good theory. And
that's
what I learned. I have some evidence to that. So I'm trying to leave New Mexico, and I'm saying, okay, I'm going to try and hitchhike. So I get up in the morning on the last day, and I make a sign. Like I figure I don't know how to hitchhike. I'll give some information right away. Just a cardboard sign. I get some nice Sharpies and draw like flowers on it, and it says L.A. or west. I was willing to just go west, as far as I could go. L.A. or west, and then in parentheses, probably not an axe murderer.
Because you had your
I was trying to keep it light. I think people might have seen like axe and like seen the axe on the side of my back with a little hatchet and gotten turned off. But I was trying to keep it cheeky and light and like
keep it cheeky.
Yeah. And I had done some research, like just Googled like how to hitchhike, pretty much hitchhiking for dummies, WikiHow hitchhiking, and a lot of the suggestions were like be on the entrances to highways where there is ample room to stop, or even at like rest stops for truckers, things like that. So places where like long haul drivers are going to be able to stop and interested in taking you somewhere. So I sat on the side of the turnpike. It's like 9 a.m. I Ubered there. This is my first Uber I'd ever taken. I remember it specifically because I got in the Uber and like got into his front seat as a solo driver, and he's like, "Oh, okay," and he like moves his seat back because like he's used to people sitting in the back, and I'm like, "Okay," and I just sit up front with him, and then I slam his door, and he's like, "Don't slam my door," and I was like, "Oh," and I just kind of sat there like,
the bag and the axe.
Yeah, it's a quiet Uber with the hatchet and the bag. So I was kind of shook, but he drops me off, and I'm like, just drop me off here. And he's like, what? And I'm like, trust me, just drop me off here. And I just sit on the entrance to the interstate with my sign, just thumbing it as much as I could, which, by the way, gets tiring. Having you sticking your thumb and your arm out, unless you're resting on something, gets super tiring after a little bit of time. Pro tip. It's something that I didn't realize. I hadn't planned for. But I think I was there on the side of the road for 3-4 hours, and it's just getting hot. This is Albuquerque in July. It is getting hot. Like it's 100-degree days, and I'm just sitting there, like I'm kind of drinking my water, and I'm getting looks for sure. I'm definitely getting looks, but no one pulls over for 3-4 hours. Some people like honk at me. I'm not sure exactly the tone of it, but nothing. And so I'm like, okay, I got to figure something else out. Ian, my buddy, gets out of work. I'd already said goodbye to him, but I was like, hey man, can you drop me off at a new location? He drops me off at like a truck stop, like a gas station truck stop.
Yeah.
And I sit there on the side just looking for truckers doing the exact same thing for the rest of the day. It was probably 4 or 5 hours, and this time I got some people to pull over.
Really?
But one of them threw me a few dollar bills because he thought I was homeless, and he's like, hey man, I've been there, like, here, take this, go buy yourself something. And I was like, no, I'm not, just trying to go somewhere. And he's like, okay, I can't really help you. Someone else came over and said, hey kid, do you want to rob a bank? I have guns and masks in my truck. And I wasn't really sure what his tone was, but he genuinely offered. I think he was looking, excuse me. I think he was looking for some kind of a recruit for a bank robbery, or he was just messing me. It was something going on.
Yeah.
But there were characters, but in conclusion,
I'm assuming that was a no, though.
That was a
no.
no. I considered it. I'll tell you what. I was interested in like some spice because this was about adventure. This was like a journey for adventure.
Why are we not on the interested mailing list?
I was interested, but I was not confirmed yet.
Yeah, probably not the best choice.
Yeah.
Still got 3 years of college ahead.
Yeah, and here we are. We didn't rob the bank. We're still living all right. Although I might have needed to, because at this point the funds were running low.
Yeah.
And that's part of why I was hitchhiking, is I was like, keep the cost low, like save money here. And in conclusion, it didn't work. So I think your theory was right. People were a little bit afraid to pick me up. I was also just like gross at this point. Like I mean, sure, I'd been showering in Albuquerque, but I was like a straggly, like 19. I had a mustache at that point.
I remember.
It was not the right appearance. But, I mean, I was still just a lanky, like, I don't know. I shouldn't have been that intimidating. But I think there was something about it that I probably didn't present the most likely traveler. But after a lot of passing cars, I had no luck that day.
Bummer.
I made it to the Greyhound bus and took like $100 bus through Phoenix, down to Phoenix, and then to LA, and it was like the worst experience.
Ugh.
This bus is just packed full. It's like the bus station. You need the bus station with like an 80s crime drama playing, like people in pajamas and like just crying babies. It's bad. And the bus air conditioner was not able to keep up. So we're going to Phoenix, Arizona. It's 104 degrees there, I think. And the bus was probably sitting at like a cool 85, 90.
And you paid $100 for this, so you're like...
just sitting in a cramped seat, just sweating. Everyone's dripping. It must have been 5-6 hours of bus. So that was a bad experience. I would not recommend that much. But made it to LA, had a good time in LA, and had to spend some more money on food. Turns out food's expensive. This is one of my big conclusions. Listeners, food is expensive, and you have to plan for it. And that's something I didn't really do. Like, especially in LA and in the cities, like, you kind of just have to stop at restaurants and shops. And sometimes, I mean, supermarkets in bulk is the cheapest way to do it. But at a lot of places, you just kind of have to bite the bullet. And
how do you plan ahead when you can't obviously refrigerate food? And also you have to carry any food that you're buying with you. How do you plan
you
for
carry
that?
food, you burn more energy, and then you have to it doesn't really check out. So I didn't plan for that, is how I planned for that, and ended up with less money in my bank account, but I fed myself at least. So LA was good, and from there my ex-girlfriend Zoe picked me up.
Cool.
from LA. Or she was actually coming down from San Diego visiting her grandparents.
Okay.
And she was skeptical the whole time. She was like, there's no way that you make it. There's no way that you are actually going to make it out here. And I'm like Snapchatting her in like New Mexico and then in LA. And she's like, I guess she's kind of having some more faith. And she picks me up and we end up just road tripping. So again, like I just find someone to kind of drive me around. It's not,
friend who's just,
Yeah, it's not hitchhiking, but it's just kind of like, I thought of it as just jumping from destination to destination. Like I had a few pickup locations. It's like Survivor, like those shows where you have to get to the drop. It's just like that.
So it's all about just getting to the drop place so you can get to the next.
And that's all it was. So she picked me up. We ended up just traveling up the coast of California. Gorgeous. This is my first time out there.
For the first time.
Just traveling. I don't remember the name of the road, but the one that just winds right along.
I think I know the one you're talking about. Like
cliffs.
The Pacific Northwest. Like it goes all the way up.
Yeah, exactly. And it was gorgeous. It was just my first experience out there, just phenomenal. We made it up to San Francisco where she lives and just got a little bit of the San Francisco experience, family, her dog, and it was wholesome.
Nice.
That was a really good episode of my trip. And then this end of the trip, I don't remember as well, but I'm pretty sure from San Francisco, I took a plane. So I'd kind of ended my road tripping and jumped from San Francisco to Chicago. So I think I must have booked this just ahead of time. So I had, again, like a pickup point where I just needed to be at the airport by a date.
Right.
And so I made it there and took a plane to Chicago. And there so this was actually something I'd done, is I'd lined up the scheduling so I could get into Chicago right as Lollapalooza was starting.
Oh.
So this was my investment at the beginning of the trip, was Lollapalooza tickets. I think I might have gotten the whole weekend, but I met up with one of my best childhood friends, Nick Bruston, there. Jake Landry, who lives in Chicago.
Jake
Landry.
He's a fellow WRUV
He's a
DJ.
WRUVer, DJ Dad.
DJ Dad.
But just met up with some music buddies who were also going to Lollapalooza, and even they were skeptical that I was going to arrive.
Right, because you had that timeline of getting to Chicago.
And it's at Nick Bruston's uncle's place. He gives me the address, and I'm like, I landed, and I roll in, and they're just they kind of see me emerge out of like the dusk. It's like I'm just so like straggly at this point, just like unkempt. It's just my bag on my back. I'd been gone for a week and 2 weeks at this point from New Hampshire. And they were relieved to see that I was alive. But I remember that moment really clearly, of just kind of like emerging and seeing familiar faces and being in a new city. It was great to experience Chicago. Lollapalooza was fantastic. Like a lot of really good artists, really good acts that I'd never really been to a big music festival before.
Yeah, so for listeners who are unfamiliar with Lollapalooza, do you want to explain like quickly?
Yeah, as best I can. I think it's a 4-day festival. I believe it's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. In the middle of summer, downtown Chicago, I think Grant Park. And it's just big names all day long. I don't remember exactly when it starts, but it's one of those all-day festivals.
Right.
I think it was headlined by Chance the Rapper. And
this would have been 2017?
16 or 17? 17,
17, yeah.
Yeah, 17 makes sense.
So big names.
Big names, yeah. And just a lot of fun. Like you can just you get like the lineup list per day, and then you have to just jump around to maybe 3 to 5 different stages. There's food there. It's like a fair. So it's just a big, fun like fair event where you get to go jump around and see different artists. And that was a lot of fun. It was nice to like I hadn't had that element in the trip yet, so it was really nice to get like a new excitement, like a new city. And from there, after Lollapalooza, I hopped on the flight. Well, I tried to hop on a flight. I missed a flight here.
Oh,
this was another episode of the trip, is that I tried to navigate the Chicago subway system and arrived 40 minutes before my flight. And you need to get there 45 minutes to check my hatchet bag.
Oh, right. So the hatchet with
you can't take a hatchet on a carry-on, turns out. So the hatchet was the death of me there. And I ended up But luckily, joke's on them, I had my camping stuff with me, so I just slept on the floor of the airport.
Excellent.
I found a little nook and unrolled my sleeping bag, sleeping pad, and just napped on the floor of the airport. It was pretty uncomfortable
Is
at
it
the end
like one
of
of
my
those
trip.
like blue sleeping pads? With,
Yeah, it's the one with the little air nozzle that you...
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was gonna say I borrowed one from your house at one point for
Yeah.
camping. I wasn't sure if that was the one.
I don't think it... Yeah.
I think the one I have was
ones
foam. Yeah, the one I have
you
is
kind of have
foam.
to blow it. You sit on your knees just trying to blow it up. But I got a night's rest, got home, and my parents were happy to see me alive.
Excellent.
And it felt good. I was tired, but it felt really good to just do it, you know?
Right. So how long were you gone for?
I think it was 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
It might have been a little, 2.5. And like, again, it took money, and it also like is a time where you can't work, and you have to kind of
Right.
schedule this in. Like not everyone can just wing it. Well, I'd recommend just wing
Right.
it when you can. I understand not everyone can, but
Right. Especially when it comes down to flights and stuff like that.
yeah,
like,
exactly. And like I didn't wing it with the flights. Like it's not like I was in
Right.
San Francisco and then said, "Oh, time to find a plane."
Right. But when
like,
it's time it comes down to money, it's like
yeah. But I was happy with the method of finding like a few checkpoints, making a few plans here and there, and then just filling in the gaps.
Right.
I think that's a strategy I'd employ again if I was traveling, or like, and just maybe in life experiences, like just kind of make a few checkpoints, keep yourself accountable, and like make sure that you're in important places, relevant places when you need to be, but in the in-between, just kind of figure it out.
Right. So if you were to do it again, what would there be anything that you'd change about what you packed or about your itinerary or how you scheduled yourself?
That's a good question.
Here's a wait, sorry, I just thought of this. Here's
Yeah.
a question I had. How are you charging your phone in between like
So, okay, one of the ways I was charging my phone
Yeah.
is I have, so in the burner that I have, like it's a little camp stove burner, it's
Yeah.
full of BioLite.
Okay.
And it doesn't use fuel. What you do is you grab sticks, pine cones, anything you find to
really?
burn, just
Yeah.
combustible materials. You throw them in the little like container and you light it, and what it has is a little copper element that generates electricity that's like a probe that goes into the fire, and it has a fan that turbocharges the flame in there, so it
Yeah.
cooks really hot, and it also has a USB port on it. So anywhere that you would need to like charge your phone and you don't have any other materials, you don't have access to a battery, boom, you pull out the BioLite, and if you can find some like sticks and some
did not
pine
know that was a
cones,
thing that you could do.
yeah, it's super
Cool.
cool. It charges pretty slowly, but that was something I did a couple times. But other than that, I mean, I wasn't truly hitchhiking or
Right.
like working.
So in between you could charge
In
at
between, I
friends'
was in
places.
bus stations and cars and friends'
Yeah.
houses and stuff. So it wasn't too difficult. And I think I had a portable charger, if I remember correctly, as well.
Okay.
Which is pretty handy to have, and just would double charge when I could. Just if I had a plug-in, I'd plug in the portable charger. You know.
Right. So any other tips or things that you would change if you were to do it again, or for anyone else who might be listening? and
Yeah,
thinking,
I'd say
like,
maybe don't bring a hatchet. It was
Yeah.
cool. It was great to have a hatchet, you know? But I don't know if I used it or used
Yeah.
it sufficiently. At one point when we camped, I might have like broken a couple sticks with it or cut
Yeah.
down a tree, but it was pretty
but
unnecessary.
pretty cumbersome when it comes
A
to
little bit unnecessary, yeah, and it may have brought some negative attention. Probably not the thing to have while hitchhiking. And I'd say plan out food. I definitely could have done better for that. If I just packed like 10 pounds of nuts in the bottom,
Nuts,
bottom of my
yeah.
bag, boom, that would have saved me a
Pocket
ton of money.
Fritos.
Pocket Fritos, exactly. I think that's a good thing to do. Is like
Right,
I didn't
instead
really
of-
plan for that. Yeah. And sure, like if you have a little bit extra money, indulge here and there. Like I ate at some fantastic spots in LA and in Chicago. Got Chicago dogs, and it's nice to be able to like experience the culture of different places through food and like be able to purchase it when you need to. But it would have been better. I would have preferred to save a little bit more money by having supplemented my trip a little bit.
right.
Yeah.
Cool. So, would you do it again?
I would do it again.
For
I'd do
sure.
something similar again at least.
Yeah. Is there any other places that you're thinking like right now, if you were
Yes,
to do a trip
actually.
like that again, where you would want to go next?
Yes. Well, I have a few different places to be on it. One of my best friends, Bryce Harrison, who I run some food trucks with, he has gone to I think in November, just up and went to Vietnam for a full I think it was 3 weeks. He saved up a little bit of money and took a flight with pretty much no plans and just went to Vietnam. He had a backpack, a similar setup. No one that he knew there. Unlike me, he didn't really have checkpoints or destinations. He just dropped in and just kind of traveled around and like met people. Apparently, there's a ton of traveling tourists who's they all speak English, and they're just. One of the tropes that he met were just like British dudes. He met a handful of these groups of just like 5 British dudes who were just like coked up, just traveling around, and just stoked to be like going to do stuff. So they like party at night in the hostels, and then they get up and be like, okay, let's go climb that mountain, climb this. And he said just like feeding off that energy and then interacting with locals when possible, and just kind of climbing the mountains. He said he was able to find his way really well, which is something I'd be nervous of without those checkpoints.
Right.
But after hearing of his experience, he ended up going to Vietnam too. He was planning to just be in Thailand, and then there was a group of these British guys who were just like, we're going to
so he started in Thailand and then went to Vietnam.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they were like, yeah, we're going to Vietnam. And he's like, oh yeah, I'd come along. And he was just like motorbiking around in the mountains and partying down on the beaches and stuff, and it was just winging it. And that's definitely something I'd like to do. I don't think I've explored the U.S. as much as I'd like to. Like, I'd like more of an experience in the U.S. and out west, but I think going to a new country and new continent would be, it's definitely on my bucket list as a place to just like wing it, just try it out.
Wing it and
which
try it out.
Could be more dangerous for sure. There's definitely new risks involved, but I think that's kind of part of the excitement of it. It's just to wing it in some place where there's new obstacles. And that's definitely something that I plan to do at some point in my life.
Cool. So you mentioned the food truck a little bit. As we're wrapping up, you mentioned the food truck. Do you want to talk a little bit about that whole experience and journey? Because that was the other thing I wanted to talk to you about. I was like, wait, my friend James is doing two different things that I thought was cool.
Yeah, so this is also a bit of a summer activity, but this was the summer after junior year, it must be. Well, sophomore year? Summer. This is 2018,
year,
so sophomore year.
Around, yeah.
Okay, this is June 2018. Coming back from school, one of my best friends, Bryce Harrison, and I were just catching up in the spring, and we'd had this idea of just starting a food truck. And we get back, and we just said, let's do it. So it was a lot of like logistics to try and like start an LLC and get food permitting and find a food truck to operate.
How did you even figure out like the whole, like where did you start when you were like?
Google.
Google?
Just Google it. The information's out there. Everyone's really helpful. Starting businesses and just starting ventures, people are really supportive is what we found, so especially the young people. And like we were starting in our hometown, in our community, where our parents knew everyone, we knew a good amount of people. So people were skeptical and like, oh, you're going to start a food truck here? Because there weren't any food trucks in North County at that point.
Right.
So people were skeptical, but very supportive. And like, honestly, it's out there. Like Google's sick. Google's got it all.
Yeah.
If you just Google like how to start an LLC, boom, you got it in your state. Or you just call up your state headquarters. Call up the Capitol, which is what we did, and we said, how do we do this? How do we get a DBA? How do we start an LLC? How do we get our food license? And there's resources. Like, it might take a few calls. You might get pushed around a little bit, and you'll get the crabby people on the line sometimes, but the resources are out there, and people are interested in helping. So really, it was the people. Like, we just kind of had to ask, and we were really excited about trying it, just the idea of trying to have a business and sell food, and we were really excited about it. So we just asked, and it ended up not being that difficult.
Yeah, and I've seen the truck. It's sick. Like, how did you even acquire a food truck? Like,
the first one,
funds or
well, again, that's also a place of privilege and for help from other people. Was the first truck that we got was through the Flatbread Company, Flatbread Pizza.
Yes.
Like, there's an American Flatbread in Burlington, which I believe Flatbread Pizza bought the concept from, but it's pretty much the same thing, like wood-fired flatbread pizza. And my buddy, Bryce Harrison, who I started it with, his dad is like the director of operations for Flatbread. And he said, we have this food truck that we're not using anymore. They used it for, I think, a summer. And they said, we're not using it anymore because it was too much work and it was really hot in the summer, just having a wood-fired pizza oven. So by the way, this food truck has a wood-fired pizza oven on it. And we ended up getting a pretty good deal for it through the flatbread company, and we had family loans, which is really nice.
Small loans of
millions of dollars. No, I think it was $20,000 for the first truck, and we were able to get that through. We went and met with his grandpa and presented our business plan, which was just garbage. It was shoddy, but he probably thought it was cute and was like, sure, I'll lend these kids a few $1,000s to at least try it out. What's the worst that could happen? It's a good thing to at least try to give them the opportunity for. And got some from my parents as well, and so we had the truck, and after that, just a little bit of permitting and buying food and equipment is a few more $1,000s, but once we finally got it up and running, I don't think it ended up being more than $25,000 of initial investment. And at that point, we were buying assets, right? So we could potentially sell them back. We could flip them. Right. It's not like this is all money right down the drain. And so we got it all together. A lot of buzzer beaters, a lot of late nights. I finished the sign for Cheese Louise the night before opening. Stayed up the entire night,
really cute.
woodworking.
Is this the one that's on campus now?
Yeah, this is the
It's really cute sign.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, no, this is actually the one I made for a second trailer.
Okay.
That's not the original sign. But for this first trailer, we opened June 15th of 2018 and just started selling to the tourists and the locals in our town.
Right, and so you sell grilled cheeses,
Grilled
right?
cheese, yeah. By the way, it's Cheese Louise artisan grilled cheese sandwiches. It's kind of, they're just paninis, really.
Yeah.
So we're kind of underselling them as grilled cheese. People are like, oh, grilled cheese, and
yeah.
It's a panini sandwich. And we got really good feedback. We got really good responses, and we were booking weddings by the end of the summer and doing music festivals.
Taken off. I mean,
yeah.
In my opinion, I see so much buzz about it on campus. People are talking about it now. So did you expect it to continue the way it did?
No,
because we're in 2020 now, and it's
not at all. It did take off. Not in an insane way. This is not a get rich quick scheme by any means. It's an insane amount of work, and it's profitable, but the margins aren't massive. So it's taken a ton of work, and it's clear to see why we are where we are now. It's been just putting every hour of our summers into it. And the community and the people, for instance, UVM campus, it's the people who have been supporting us. That's how we've gotten here. Is back home in New Hampshire, it's the Facebook moms. That's really what it is. We have, because it's our hometown. Our parents know people, and there's this whole network of Facebook moms who just share our posts and
Facebook
say,
mom network.
This is our marketing scheme, is Facebook moms, and they share it around and they chat, and it's just word of mouth in the valley, and that's how we got our exposure there. And in Burlington, that's what it's been too. Now that we've set up here, it's instead of Facebook moms, it's just our friends here, students, class friends,
started doing merch
roommates.
And stuff like that.
Yeah. And it's just gotten the buzz, but it's about the students just being excited about it, interacting, and that's been the best press so far. Is just word of mouth and just excitement about it. But after that first season. We end up doing weddings and stuff at the end of the season, and we go into the fall a little bit, but we sold that first trailer, and we bought 2 new trailers for this past season, this 2019 season, and just kind of did the same thing where we had one trailer that was stationed in North Conway, and we took the other one on tour, did music festivals and all sorts the fun stuff.
Yeah.
So I had my younger brother managing the truck in town in North Conway, and myself, Ian, who I did the road trip with, who became an owner.
Okay.
And Bryce, we just kind of went around to music festivals, and we go down to southern New Hampshire, Vermont, and Maine, and just started operating wherever we could and just doing the fun stuff.
Right.
And meeting a lot of people, and the music festival stuff are especially fun because you'd go in and then you just trade food with any other vendors. Do you know Miso Ramen? They're one of the food trucks around Burlington. They're at J Peak too. We trade with them all the time. We'd be going around New England and was running to them, and we'd trade sandwiches for ramen, sandwiches for miso.
I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah, and then if you'd have a few minutes, you say, okay, slow down a little bit. You guys handle the operation. You go watch an act. You'd go enjoy the music or go grab a beer somewhere or something like that. So that was a ton of fun to just go around on tour and explore this summer. And then at the end of the summer, Bryce and Ian went back off to Albuquerque. Bryce is in Vancouver, so just as far across the country, up in Canada. So they're kind of out of the picture now that they've gone off to school. But they were I'm well, I'm only 3 hours away in Burlington. I could potentially bring a truck up to Burlington and try and run it there. So I spent the end of the summer and the beginning of the fall just figuring out permitting for Burlington, working with the city and stuff. And I think our first day here was October 24th or the 16th, somewhere in that area. It took a while to get permitting, and even now we're kind of operating on a loophole.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think we had our 7th day of operation on Friday. So we're just kind of doing it once a week. I mean, school is an important task as well. That takes up some time.
Right, so how do you like manage a business and your school? And
it takes a lot of time.
It's like your senior year too, so you're like,
there's a lot of stuff going on. But I'm lucky to have roommates. We live in a 6-man house right now over on Colchester. House. Yeah, it's the Colchester house. It's 6 men. We got Jake, Fox, PJ, Aaron, and Brandon, and they help me with all the prep, help me with dishes when I need it, and they're really running the operation too. Like it'd be impossible without them. They're the faces of the business here, so they're helping prep, and they're in there when we actually operate on Fridays.
I see them all the time.
Yeah. And when you see Cheese Louise, just come up and visit. And I guarantee you, there'll be a roommate in there. Another big player is Jack Thompson. He's a sophomore here, and he was one of our best employees back in New Hampshire. And he's a family friend of mine. We go way back. We played soccer together for the past 8 years of our lives. And he goes to UVM here, so he goes to school here. So at the beginning, he was like, "When's Cheese Louise coming? Like, when are we starting up?" And I said, "Hell yeah, man!" We got him in the truck, and he's been involved every single day of operation. Again, doing prep and stuff. So the way it's possible and the way you juggle it is by having supportive friends, I guess. That's the way it's
I guess that's the lesson for that and your road trip.
That's the big lesson, is it's not a one-man show by any means at all. It takes, sometimes you have to lean on people, and I'm very, very thankful for the support that I've had from my friends, from the communities, New Hampshire, and from Burlington too. Everyone who's come out to Cheese Louise, everyone who's liked, shared a post, that all helps. I'm super thankful. That's what's making it possible here.
Cool. So as you look towards the future in terms of travel plans or Cheese Louise and graduation, anything that you're hoping for, or any hopes, wishes, dreams?
Just more of it.
More of it?
It's been a really good episode of my life to just be adventuring with traveling with Cheese Louise. And some more of it. Just keep it up. One thing I want to do, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to pull it off. One thing I want to do is take Cheese Louise out west.
And combine.
Yeah. So here at UVM, you'll notice that the trailer here, it's a food trailer, not a food truck. It needs a truck to pull it around. But what I want to do is maybe invest in a food truck that's like a Sprinter van kind of setup, and then make it kind of like van dwelling, where you have how have you ever seen van dwelling vans where they have the bikes on the back? Yeah, and they have skis and the graffiti, and they're campers set up that are for outdoorsy people. So I want a food truck that looks like that has my skis that's set up, it has a chalkboard, and it's just set up as a camper van or camper bus, but it's a Cheese Louise, and it opens up, it has a full kitchen, it's health certified, of course. Something like that just take across the country. And my younger brother Sullivan, who has run Cheese Louise with me, is at UC Santa Cruz in California.
Oh,
so I want to go.
So that might be a potential destination.
He's thinking about trying to start.
Perhaps.
Yeah, he's thinking about trying to start his own Cheese Louise out there. So I was thinking maybe just go across the country, get some good time with my brother, expand the brand a little bit, and adventure, explore, just kind of wing it out there.
Won't have to hitchhike this time.
Won't have to hitchhike. I'll have a kitchen, have running water, heated water.
Excellent.
Put a little shower head off the
you
back
know
or
it's
something.
Be health certified, so.
Yep. And then just tent, just like I did before, just have a tent and have sleeping mat and stuff, and just sleep under the stars sometimes, and then travel around and visit. One of the big reasons for doing something like this would be to travel around and visit my friends in postgrad, people who are in Colorado, and PJ, for instance, another WRUV man, DJ PJ, he's going to Texas.
Right.
And one idea would just be go visit PJ for a week, for a couple weeks, and just operate out of Texas and see how he likes his postgrad life, how he likes his living situation, his job, and live vicariously through our friends who are graduating. And instead of taking the leap myself, into specific living situations, see how they
See what
enjoy
works,
it.
see what you
works.
like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, of course, you're different people. Like, I'm not going to just define my life based on how other people enjoy it, but by living with people temporarily, like I've done with the traveling, like I think it'll hopefully give me a good scoop into what I might want to do. So, in answer to one of your first questions of what am I doing right after, not really sure, but I think I want to figure it out through other people a little bit.
Cool.
And
that's an
maybe
approach
through
I haven't
Cheese
heard much, but I think it sounds very, what's what I'm looking for, like a, not valuable, but like, I can't think of the word right now, but rewarding, that's the word I wanted.
Rewarding. Yeah, I hope so. I don't know. And like, I don't know if it's, who knows? This is very early stages. This is kind of a pipe dream. But so was Cheese Louise a couple of years ago, and so was the trip a week before it started.
Right.
Like, this is not something that's confirmed by any means, but that's the spirit, at least, of what I'd like to do, is something like that. Just go out adventure a little bit more.
Well, thank you so much for offering
Thank you.
letting me interview you about your trip, about Cheese Louise, about your many summer projects and adventures. Yeah. Thank you for stopping in. And so if people are interested in Cheese Louise, obviously they can
find us on campus.
Find you on campus somewhere.
Friday,
student run operation.
Student owned and operated.
Cool. Well, thank you again, James Gaudreault, for stopping in, and I'll see you around campus.
Thank you, I'm gone.
All right, and back to the live studio right now. You just heard an interview with UVM student James Gaudreault on his very first road trip west, as well as what it's like to run a student-owned and operated business, in this case a food truck here on campus. So the time is 10:52 and you are currently tuned to 90.1 WRUV FM Burlington. Thank you as always for tuning in. This is the Ghoul Kids Club and this is DJ MCon. We have a little more music for you as we close up this hour, and we hope to have more exciting interviews next week and the weeks to come this semester. Ghoul Kids Club is using this hour to interview different students and professors and people on campus and in the Burlington community about projects they're working on, experiences they've had, anything cool that they're doing or working on, and sharing that with you, the listeners. And so we're super excited to continue that and hopefully find some other good stories in the weeks to come. And as I said, the time is 10:53 and you're listening to 90.1 WRUV FM Burlington.
Catching crooks and crickets in the bell jar. I've been waiting for my woman to relieve me, but she's outside climbing on the oak tree. There's a dead canary in the coal mine, and the lamb's head growing from a grapevine. Growing from a grapevine. Yeah, it's getting biblical now. Oh, you better pick your weapons up and throw your mercy down. It's getting mythical now. You better pick your weapons up and throw your mercy down. Throw your mercy down. There's a madman tapping at the window with a pocket full of innuendo. There's a joker poking at the doorbell and a sparrow drowning in the inkwell. I've been waiting for my lover to relieve me, but they're outside swinging from the oak tree. Swinging from the oak tree. It's getting biblical now. You better pick your weapons up and throw your mercy down. It's getting mythical now. You better pick your weapons up and throw your mercy down. There's a tyrant on the throne and a clown on every screen, compelling us to stay at home in this low-grade fever dream. But we're gathering our strength, we're becoming less afraid. There is hope for us in this unholy pick your weapons up and throw your mercy down. It's getting mythical now. You better pick your weapons up and throw your mercy down. It's getting biblical now. You better pick your weapons up and throw your mercy down. It's getting mythical now. You better pick your weapons up and throw your mercy down. And throw your mercy down.
You're listening to Mercy Down with Schaefer James, and we're wrapping up this edition of the Ghoul Kids Club today. We hope you tune in next week for more interviews and more fun from 10 to 11 a.m. Thank you as always for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.